Your Steve Jones Show podcast will start shortly. The Steve Jones Show podcast is sponsored by Brewers Outlet, your beverage supermarket on Reagan Street in Sunbury. Sports talk where your voice counts. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. Now from the Sunbury Motors Studio, here's Steve Jones.
Today's show brought to you by Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street in Sunbury, the beverage supermarket. Imports, domestics, microbrews, best selection of beer anywhere. Oh, it's warm out, so wine coolers, water, lots of water, soft drinks, snacks. They roast their peanuts fresh and hot every day. And the pickle bar, led by the barrels and the dills, indeed second to none. It's all at Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street in Sunbury, the beverage supermarket. And we're in the Sunbury Motors studio. Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors, Kia, routes 11 and 15, Hummels Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. Time now for our play-by-play call of the day. Drama amongst the corn.
Tim Anderson digging in 1 for 4 tonight.
Good matchup here for a low ball hitter, sinking fastball.
Anderson hits it in the air to right. Back at the wall, and the White Sox win it. Well, you can throw the party, but you never know how it's going to turn out.
That's unreal.
And how about 6 runs on the board in the 9th inning alone, and the White Sox with a walk-off 9-8 win. This was some kind of night for baseball.
Indeed, it was a great night for baseball. Rob Manfred could not have asked for more. The owners couldn't have asked for more. I don't think the players could have asked for more. Great setting. Really a great baseball game. Didn't turn out the way Matt wanted, but it still was for, look, the casual fan. That was great theater last night.
Exactly right.
All right. You hear his name a lot, but you never get a chance to see him. That's because, quote, behind the scenes, Ben Bousma, whose name's been brought up how many times by Kenny Albert on this show, is somebody that just continues to do great work. Penn Stater, Icer. Ben, welcome. Great to have you with us on the show.
Steve, that memory is amazing. But you forgot that Don Drysdale was on the Brady Bunch as well.
Yeah, he was on the Brady Bunch. and when I did the 1991 NCAA tournament game in the Carrier Dome, Ann Myers, who eventually married Don Drysdale, was the analyst for UCLA basketball. So, and had a
like
chance.
2 degrees of Steve Jones.
Yeah. How have you been?
I'm good. Just battled COVID for the second time, but I'm over it and get ready for football season, as I'm sure you guys are as well.
Yeah, so it's interesting because you've had a really a wonderful career with a lot of different twists and turns. But in a lot of ways with the NFL on Fox, and now with the door maybe being, and I'm sure it will open for ESPN Turner for you, 16 years of doing the NHL on NBC, working, quote, behind the scenes. How did you get into that, Ben? Because I also now know where, like people would start hearing your name, but there's a pathway to get there. How'd you do it?
Almost by accident. I think if you remember, there's a gentleman, professor there when I was there, and I hate to date myself, but 89 to 93, named Dean Runyon.
Yep.
Who I think was also responsible for creating the Penn State hockey show that you hosted, as well as we did some games together.
Yeah, we did games together, and then Dean eventually went to a college in Indiana. So,
yep. The late Dean Runyon, by the way.
Yes.
God bless him and his family. A great human being for those who knew him. But we were on a road trip back from Canada one time. I think it was my junior year. I was 19 years old. And he knew my interest in sports. At the time, I'd gone to Penn State to be an aerospace engineer, believe it or not. But he knew my interest, and he said, hey, what are you doing this summer? And I said, well, I was going to stay around school, take some classes, work out, and coach some of our hockey camps. And he said, have you thought about an internship? And at 19, I looked at him being naive, and I said, but Dean, I'm not pre-med. What do you mean? I don't need an internship. What are you talking about? And he said, no. He says internships, are designed for people to get work experience and get their foot in the door. And he said, I know some people with the Pittsburgh Pirates. Maybe it might be a good thing to do this summer. Now, as a lifelong Pirate fan and my family originally being from Pittsburgh, my eyes lit up, and I'm like, sure, why not? So I kind of fell into the sports business that way, as after my junior year, I interned for the Pittsburgh Pirates in their scoreboard room and their PR department. And then followed that up again after I graduated, and I did another summer because I liked it so much, and I figured, okay, I need a job, and I got to open some doors. Well, in 1992, we were really good, the Pirates, as you remember. We went to the playoffs, almost went to the World Series.
Right.
1993, when Barry Bonds decided to leave, and the franchise lost $17 million, and the people were like, hey, we'd love to hire you. We've got no money.
Right.
So now you got to start looking for a job, right? And I'm like, oh, my gosh, what am I going to do? Well, during a rain delay at Three River Stadium, the director of human resources for the Capitol Center, at the time, which was owned by Abe Poland, who owned the Washington Bullets and the Washington Capitals, and me being a hockey guy, said, hey, we're going to be hiring some people. Are you interested? Well, I'm 21 at the time. I need a job, and it's in the NHL. I said, who could complain? So I went there just to do everything. We were, in a little tiny office out back of the Cap Center, and I would do hockey stuff and community relations stuff and sell tickets and make, I'm 21. Who cares? You're in the business. And then Kenny Albert, the son of Marv Albert.
Yep. Who's been a guest on the show many times. So.
Yep. And one of the nicest human beings.
Oh, my goodness.
He's a nicer person than he is a broadcaster.
Yes, he is.
We hit it off as friends. The following year, during the NHL lockout, is when the Fox network bought the NFL rights away from CBS. And I get a call from Kenny just about this time of the year in 1994. And he said, hey, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm in the office, and I'm doing crossword puzzles and long-distance phone calls because we've got nothing to do. There's not going to be a season. We don't know what's going on. He goes, well, hey, I just got a call. Fox is hiring me to do the NFL. Do you want to do the games with me? I'm like, absolutely. And so for 28 years, the fall season on Fox every year became Kenny and my kind of fall hobby. So that's how I kind of fell into the TV side. And one thing leads to another. Even though I went back to Pittsburgh to be one of the PR guys for the Pirates and get the stadium built and all that was a full-time job, I would still do the NFL on Fox in the off-season.
Right.
Just to keep going. And it's a business where you know people and network, and once you do a good job for some people, it blossoms into other things. So my path was probably accidental, and probably because I had an injury my sophomore year where I got kneed above my knee and had to be on crutches for a week.
I remember that.
And my engineering graphics courses were at the other side of campus in the middle of January, and I was on crutches. And I woke up one day and he said, you know what, I could be an aerospace engineer. I'm not sure I want to do it. But at a great university like Penn State, where there are so many opportunities and so many people, and you get your eyes open to so many things, I was fortunate to take advantage of it. So, literally an injury and a couple of phone calls, and that's how I fell into it.
Explain to everybody, because two different sports that you have to work in the booth, football, hockey. Let's take the football first. When you're in that booth, now you have to prepare to get there, all right? So, there's a lot of work during the week to get there. Once you're in there, what specifically is your job with Kenny on Sundays?
And the same thing, don't forget, I got to carry Steve Levy on Monday nights.
Oh, my goodness. It's just, we'll get into that. We'll get into that problem in a moment. No, I'm just kidding.
Look, you're a veteran broadcaster, and your expertise in football. And the way I explain it to everybody is, the sports are different. Football is like preparing for a 3-hour exam every week. When you do football, 90 to 95% of your preparation will never, ever, ever make air.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
I tell my broadcast class all the time. I said, I tell them 3% you'll actually use, but you don't know which 3% it is.
Right. And the best way to explain it is you basically have to be prepared for every possible scenario as the game goes along, right? And the more you do, they become more predictable, right? You can anticipate as you go quarter by quarter by quarter what has happened in the game as we've gone on, and what are the scenarios we could have as we enter the fourth quarter, right? But the example I always explain is, a game-winning field goal, okay, can have 8 or 10 different scenarios leading into the field goal and 8 or 10 leading out of the field goal, right? So, the kid could have missed a field goal the week before. The last time these two teams played, he could have beaten them on a game-winning field goal. Or last year when he was with a different team. Or what does this field goal mean if they win? Do they clinch the division? There's so many scenarios to paint the picture before the ball is snapped. And then after the snap, what's the result? Did he miss it wide left? Did he drill it? You got a celebration. You got so many scenarios going in and so many scenarios going out. And you have to be prepared for all of them because you have so many people listening or so many people watching. And look, people love football. They're pretty smart. And if you aren't prepared going in and coming out, you're going to get ripped publicly the next day for not having the correct information. And so that, for us, is literally play by play by play as an entire game goes along. Because it can't be wrong. We could have anywhere between 10 to 30 million people watching a game. And so, accuracy is very, very important. So that goes, that's where the preparation goes. But again, like we just said, 90% of that, it's almost like an editing room floor when they make a movie, right? You only see the best of what goes up on screen, and all the hard work is sitting on a floor somewhere at the end of the day. So that's why when I'm sure you've talked to so many kids in classes and things, like you really have to drill in how important preparation is.
Mm-hmm. So in that booth, how often is it notes that you pass? How often is it pointing to make sure he's got it right?
It's a combination of things. So it's almost like a golfer caddy type relationship.
Yes.
As Mike Tirico said once, like you have to have 1,000% trust in the person you're working for. Like you could have the Ron Burgundy scenario, right? Where I put a card up and you just read it, right?
Right.
I've had the fortune of not just working with Kenny, but hundreds of guys over the years, from Sean McDonough to Tirico, Sam Rose, and Joe Buck. I mean, it goes on and on and on. Each guy is different, right? Like if a guy like Fluff, who was a caddy for so long, bounced around working with Tiger at one point or another golfer, like you have to build that relationship. Right. So then he moved
to Jim Furyk. So he had to work with different guys. Fluff Cowan.
And each guy has idiosyncrasies. Each guy has different presentation. So you build the trust, but so much of it is it's part notes, it's part signals. What we did last year, COVID actually kind of opened a new concept for us because on the Monday Night Football booth, we had to be socially distanced, right? Yeah. Now, you can't really be far from your spotter or your stats guy or whatever in a booth because it'll feel like 10 miles because you're used to that person being right there and you're working together. So we actually developed a concept where I had a projector above a spotting board. Steve had a monitor to his right, and I would point, but I was able to talk to Steve the whole time.
Right.
So rather than notes and stuff like that kind of got eliminated, but I could literally go in his ear, hey, 3 tight ends in this play. Don't forget they scored a touchdown on the last 3 tight end play, right? So that's in his ear, which would have been something in the old days maybe I wrote down or, would talk about. So COVID kind of, as tough as it was to do broadcasts under that scenario, we've invented some ways to go around it that we may never go back. Another one was with Doc Emmerich during the Stanley Cup Final last year, the whole playoffs. He's in Michigan, I'm in Maine, and the games are in Edmonton.
Right.
And so I would do it via FaceTime. I introduced Doc to FaceTime, and I said, Doc, put your phone right under the big monitor that you're calling the game off of. I got a feed that was about 2 or 3 seconds slower than his feed, so I could actually anticipate when he said, score!
Right.
But I would give him notes via FaceTime. Like I would write it on a card, put it up on my iPad. He could see it and do it right away. So, I don't want to say they're innovative ways, but it's the only way we survive. And we're going to keep some of those things moving forward. So, but it's a dance. It's a crazy dance with a million things going on and totally based on trust.
All right. So I know this is something when Eli Gold and I, who does Alabama, and Eli's done many sports in his career, Alabama football, basketball. People don't realize Eli's favorite sport's actually hockey. He used to say, Eli used to sit in the upper deck at Madison Square Garden when he was younger. But he and I both agree. We were just talking shop one day, whatever, and because I do football, basketball, baseball. I said, I feel like it keeps me fresh because each one has its own pace to it. Hockey's pace is different than anything else. So how do you handle hockey because of the speed and pace versus how you handle football?
And it's the hardest. Like we said, the best thing about football is there's a 40-second pace to every play.
Yep.
And there's a pace to a quarter, and there's a pace to a game, right? And you can interchange the uniforms, and you can interchange the location, but it's, for those of us on the inside, it's almost the same. It's just the action within that changes. But hockey, in the 2002 Olympics, I don't know if you remember this, but the International Ice Hockey Federation at that time had instituted a rule of fast face-offs.
Yes.
As soon as there was a whistle, those teams got to the dot. They had to get to the dot as fast as they could and drop the puck.
Yep.
Out of those Olympics, a lot of the NHL people liked it because it sped up the game. I don't really like it because I think it takes the stars off the ice.
I agree.
More. But it sped up the game. So, maybe 20 years ago, a hockey game on TV was 2.5 to 2 hours and 45 minutes. And you could do a lot more, and you could throw more graphics and tell stories and replays and video and all that stuff. But now hockey's almost a 2 hour and 15, 2 hour and 20-minute game.
Exactly.
Before you get to like an overtime or a shootout. So the ability to tell stories, the ability to get information and visuals in is really tough. So actually had the dinner with Sean McDonough the other night in Boston because he's going to be doing hockey for ESPN, and he hasn't done it for about 20-plus years.
Right.
And we were with Dave O'Brien, who's the Red Sox announcer as well. And Dave asked that question. He's like, what's the difference? I said, fly out to Dave. I said, hockey has a unique rhythm. You've called it. There are crescendos. There are ups and downs. And being able to know, hey, all of a sudden, hey, there's a 3-on-2 developing, and the crescendo rises the closer you get to the net. So as an announcer and in the broadcast booth, you have to know those ebbs and flows. And, okay, a team just dumped the puck in. It's going to be a slow breakout. You got time to start a story. And that's what Doc was so brilliant about, was being able to say, hey, I got a window here. I can start getting Eddie or Brian Boucher involved with something I want to talk about.
Right.
Whereas when you do football, as soon as the guy's picked up from a tackle, you got 20, 25 seconds to kill. So that was the unique genius of Doc, not only because of his voice and his ability to call the game, but, okay, it's a Tuesday night in November, and it's Washington and Pittsburgh. How can I tell a story and weave in, even though we've got Ovechkin and Crosby on the ice, right? And he could do it. And that's the hardest part about hockey is the pace. And, baseball, hey, we're going to be here for 4.5 hours, just empty the bucket. Right? So yes, they all, you have to have it's almost like a concert pianist trying to play different tunes. Yeah. They're each just going to have their own melody and their own feel to them, and that's you've had the fortune of calling all of them. So even basketball, basketball's now like a 90-minute sport, and you got to do a lot of work in a little amount of time.
Yeah. Really, it's interesting because you throw like the name Dave O'Brien's a great guy. Sean McDonough is an awesome guy. I mean, you really. Levy, I don't know as well. I've met him a couple times, but he just seems like a really terrific guy as well. I mean, they all seem to appreciate where they are and who they work with, which I think is really, really great. I mean, they appreciate the people around them very, very much. So, Ben, I've been wanting,
and that pays off to the truck too. That's people you work with around you. When the A guy respects the people in the truck and your producers, and it just makes for a great show.
Well, it's interesting because I was talking to somebody today who's going to be working with BTN, and I said to them, I said, look, guys like Jim Ressler, Tony DeSanti, I said, they're awesome guys as producers. I told him this guy, I said how fortunate he was. I said, you're going to end up with some of those guys. I said, they're not just good, they're great to work with, and it means a lot. Ben, I've been wanting to do this actually for a while, and I would love to get you back periodically from time to time just to update some stuff and just talk, because I think this was a lot of fun.
No, absolutely. As the fall goes along, let me know. Once football gets rolling, I'll be doing Thursdays, Sundays, Mondays, and then who knows what hockey will bring. So
He'll bring something.
my afternoons are usually wide open. We don't play hockey at 2:00 in the afternoon. So
perfect.
Let's catch up as the fall goes along, and that's the Guy Godowski and our Penn State hockey team there, and
it's
have
awesome.
a great fall, everyone.
Well, Ben, thank you so much. It was great catching up, and I look forward to maybe in a couple months we do this again and talk about some things that you're seeing out there.
You got it, my friend. Good luck, and
thanks, my
let's
friend.
go State.
Ben Bousma. A lot of work with Fox, with Kenny Albert, obviously aiming to work with Turner and ESPN on their hockey, Monday Night Football as well. And I asked him at one point, I said, have you thought about doing some spot work for the suit? And it went back to he likes to work with easy people. All right, we'll come back with more in a moment here on News Radio 1070 WKOK.
Fouled, that spells fouled.
Party time, game time, or just fun time. Doesn't matter what time it is because it's Brewers Outlet time. The beverage supermarket has the area's largest beer selection. Imports, microbrews, ciders, and domestics. Pick from over 100 ice-cold 12-packs and dozens of 24-ounce singles. Soda, snacks, hot sauces, fresh roasted peanuts. Make it one-stop party shopping, and don't forget the pickle bar. So whatever you're celebrating or just doing it up, Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street, Sunbury wants to see you. And thank you for your years of patronage.
Taking your calls at 800-795-9565. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. Now from the Sunbury Motors Studio, here's Steve Jones.
Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15, Hummels Wharf, online at sunburymotors.com. Ford, Lincoln, Kia, Hyundai, best in new inventory. Great pre-owned inventory, all at Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15, Hummels Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. And today's show brought to you by the great people at Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street in Sunbury, the beverage supermarket. Imports, domestics, microbrews, best selection of beer anywhere. Wine coolers, water, soft drinks, snacks. They roast their peanuts fresh and hot every day. That pickle bar, led by the barrels and the dills, indeed second to none. It's all at Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street in Sunbury. The beverage supermarket. Doug Birdsong, by the way, texted. He said, the suit always told me that he thought he was very easy to work with. I texted back, the first step on the road to recovery is admitting the problem. All right, so with that.
Oh, my almighty!
With that, we bring in the always easy to work with, the King.
Hey, what up? Just got back from Chatham.
Oh, very nice.
What a town. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, isn't it?
It's the most expensive, richest town I've ever been in my life. Neat and cute, and I looked up online to see what the wealthiest town on Cape Cod is, and they're number 2 behind Martha's Vineyard.
Right, yeah, the Vineyard would be first, yeah. Yeah, no question.
I was stunned at the mansions and the...
Yeah,
it's just a beautiful town. It's just beautiful. We had a really nice time. The Main Street, we walked the Main Street, but I can't... There was a headline in the paper that residents had reduced the sale price of their homes $3 to $4 million. Like, holy, reduced it? Okay. We had a little 300 square foot cottage.
It's very important to be affordable.
Yeah. We were like the slummers, you know. We were like, that's our house over there.
Feeling great. That's our place. Feeling good.
Their sheds were nicer. So.
Oh, my goodness.
Anyway, a lot of sharks there. Holy moly. They got a shark named Kevin. They name the sharks. They have them all tagged.
S-U-I-T. That spells suit.
Yes, there's the suit shark.
Well, they have so many sharks tagged there that they named them all. And they can tell on radar when they come close to shore. And then one guy was fishing, and a great white shark got on his line. Of course, the shark snapped the line, but it was wild. The shark was jumping in the air. And so this is like 20 yards offshore.
It's crazy, isn't it? I mean, what happens is Monomoy Island, which is just off of Chatham. That's where the seals gather.
Yep.
And unfortunately, the seals make an easy target for the sharks.
Right.
And, you know, it's essentially been the suit sales philosophy. Same thing. All right. So, what?
No good! No good! No good!
You better never make a bad call and let Kevin get his hands on it.
No, I mean, we've all made bad calls. You know, it's just try not to make it an epidemic. Now
I thought that's a great call myself.
Oh, that call? That's Doug. That's Doug Birdsong. That's not the suit. That's Doug.
Oh,
who does Bucknell? Doug Birdsong does Bucknell. He's awesome. He's one of the best in the country.
Yes.
Does Bucknell football and basketball. He is tremendous.
I thought Kevin does Bucknell.
He's the analyst and
sideline, all that good stuff. Yeah.
Sideline.
Okay. Yeah, he's active in it though. He's really good.
Oh yeah, he's active. Kevin does a really good job. We all know Kevin does a really good job. But when he takes on the persona of the suit,
like Superman,
then suddenly things change.
It's Clark Kent, Superman.
Ladies and gentlemen, the suit. Ladies and gentlemen, problem.
So who's going to win the Super Bowl this year, boys?
Well, let's see. The Eagles are out.
Yeah, I don't even have him in the Super Bowl.
I am going to say I will vote for the Kansas City Chiefs. Even though they have a new offensive line, they've still got enough left in the tank.
I love Buffalo. Buffalo's good. I think it's going to be very competitive. I mean, you can't go wrong with the Chiefs. They retooled and they're bad.
Well, Buffalo can still take advantage of the rookie contract of Josh Allen because he's still on his rookie deal, which allowed them to acquire Stephon Diggs. That's what a rookie deal does at quarterback. It gives you
I thought he
options.
just signed like a $40 million a year contract.
Yeah, but that was just an extension. That won't take over till his rookie deal's done.
Yeah, it's an extension that starts after his rookie deal's over with. So they're still cap-wise, they're still under his rookie deal. So that's why they were able to acquire certain players, because his contract kept them under the cap. Yeah. There's never been, and right now, Mahomes' deal still keeps them under the cap.
Really?
There's never been a Super Bowl champion where the quarterback had 12% of the cap or more.
That's interesting. I also like Cleveland.
Cleveland's
a really curious team. They've got all the tools to win. So
they're curious, but here's the deal with them. They won a lot of close games last year. So do they take the step forward and widen the margin, or in a couple of those games, because they're still close, do they slip? See, that's my issue with Cleveland.
Like the Red Sox.
Well, I mean, the Red Sox. When have I said the Red Sox were great? All season long, I said they're a good team.
They won a lot of one-run games, and now they're losing those games by 10.
Right? No, they did. And a lot of comebacks in the seventh inning on where they were, behind, and I mean, as I said, the whole season they're good, but they're not great. And I mean, I've been pretty straightforward about them all year. They're good, not great. The Yankees, I hate to say this, need to get Chapman back because they've blown 5 saves in 7 days. So it's like, wow.
Brady can go back to the Orioles. You can have him back, Dick, for Milton. That's
eye-opening. Tampa Bay, I mean, Chaim Bloom was brought into Boston. I don't think you can build Boston the way you build Tampa Bay. Just like if Chaim Bloom were with the Phillies, or the Yankees, you don't build the Phillies, the Yankees, the Dodgers, or the Red Sox the way you build Tampa Bay. You have to have the ability, because of your finances, to dole some money out to fill in your gaps beyond what you have in your system. And he didn't fill his gaps in with this team. I mean, at the trade deadline, he did not fill gaps.
Can you imagine if Tampa Bay wins the World Series this year? They got the NHL, they got the NFL, and they got Major League Baseball.
And guess what? My Super Bowl pick is a Tampa repeat. I think they have a very legitimate chance to get 2 repeat champs and maybe a World Series champ.
That defense, my gosh, that defense is
everybody's back. They fully just brought everybody back from last year.
Yeah, they did, but here's the issue with that. When you do win like they did, a lot of things have to go right, including staying healthy the entire time.
That's exactly right.
They stayed healthy the entire time. They finally did get hot once they got their bye week. Because before the bye week, they were an old, tired team that really staggered into the bye week. Then they got the bye week and came out of it refreshed, and it made such a difference for them. But that's one of the problems with repeating. You have to have a lot of elements go right to win.
I think the only difference with them, and you're 100% right, the only difference was they brought in a new quarterback and he had to learn a new system.
Right.
And albeit that new quarterback was Tom Brady. But with COVID and everything, nobody really had a great preseason, and it took him and them a while to get going. But once they got going, they were just about unbeatable. You know? Right,
and again, I think that coincided with that bye week where they've they got
a little more time.
A little more time, a little more rest off your legs. They were fresh. We'll come back with next week's headlines in a moment. Brought to you by Brewers Outlet on News Radio 1070 WKOK.
When it comes to car buying, there's the other guy's way, and then there's the SMC way. The other guys force you into a vehicle you really don't want. The Sunbury Motors way lets you take the time you need to browse, ask questions, and take the test drive and think on it. For over 100 years, the Mertz family and all their employees have made your experience the most pleasant one you'll ever have. The other guys won't offer you the best price for your trade, no matter how much they say they will. The SMC way is their promise to provide you with the most money the market shows your vehicle is worth. The SMC way is to offer you all applicable factory rebates on new vehicles and generous discounts. Looking for a pre-owned vehicle? The SMC way checks each vehicle in a 200-mile radius to determine the lowest price, then beat it. It's the lowest price promise, just part of the SMC way. The choice is up to you, the other guy's way or the SMC way. The SMC way wins every time. Sunbury Motors Company in the North 4th Street Auto Plaza, Sunbury, and at sunburymotors.com. Selling more cars and satisfying more customers for over 100 years.
All right, time now for headlines of the week.
All right, I'm going to get things started based on last night's Field of Dreams game. By the way, Steve, I just got this text from Scott Gilbert, our friend at the Spikes. He just told me the Yankees sent down Andrew Heaney to the Spikes because he stinks so bad.
He speaks highly of you.
I'm done with them, King. I'm done.
You quit? No more Yankees?
He's awful. He's awful. I mean, that was just another horrendous performance last night. So, yeah.
I know.
Set him down and get better with the Spikes.
That was going to be one of my things was the Field. I thought that was the coolest thing ever, the Field of Dreams. So good for Major League Baseball coming up with something different. You know, that was good. So.
All right, Steve, what do you got?
Olympic ratings will not go down next week.
That's exactly right. King?
Michael? Let's see. I'm curious with Ben Roethlisberger and Dwayne Haskins. Is Haskins going to be the next quarterback at Pittsburgh?
I think he's on track to be, and I think that's why they signed him.
I think Mike Tomlin is the perfect, because let's face it, Ben gets hurt every year. So you're bringing in a quarterback that you just can't have Ben get hurt every year. Right? Not one of my favorite people, but he's been a great quarterback. Haskins has got all the talent, and with Mike Tomlin as his mentor, he could turn into quite a quarterback in the NFL. I was just curious what you guys thought.
Well, I said in the show earlier, King, I think Mason Rudolph should be in trouble for that number 2 spot.
Yeah.
We had my buddy Alex Kazor, who covers the Steelers, on a couple weeks ago, and he said that he had just made the crack a little bit, but it would be still Rudolph's job. But I think Haskins has clearly outplayed Rudolph in the first 2 games.
This is my other curious thing. Why do the quarterbacks who come out of Ohio State seem to have so much trouble in the NFL? And it's not necessarily their athletic ability, but they're immature and they get in trouble, you know? Is there a pattern there?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, they all just playing under what's this goober down there at Jacksonville.
Stinking Urban Meyer, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they come out of there and they're like derelicts, you know? I don't know. But this kid's got a lot of talent. He's got the size. He's good. So if you get a guy like Mike Tomlin to get in his ear and mentor him, he could be quite a player. So just curious.
All right, my next one, I'm going to stick with Field of Dreams. Rob Manfred, of course, confirmed last night they are returning there in 2022. So my suggestion, and actually I think this has a good chance of happening, only because they've played in Williamsport already, and that was a good success, is make it Cubs-Cardinals next year. 2 Midwest teams. You got the rivalry. You'll have both Chicago teams in the first 2 years. I think that should make it happen. Cubs-Cardinals next year.
That'd be awesome. Awesome. I love it. I love it at Major League Baseball, so I think it's great. That would be a good matchup. What other gimmick can Major League Baseball, because the NHL did it with the outside games, and it was a big hit. You know, what other gimmick can Major League Baseball do to liven it up a little bit?
I made two suggestions. One was playing a regular season game in Cooperstown at Doubleday Field around the Hall of Fame.
Sure.
And the other one was recreating the Sandlot.
Love both ideas.
Yeah. I think it's awesome. It's just it makes you want to watch, and that's what they had to do, because the product they have now is not very good.
And Cooperstown would actually be easy, Steve, because the Hall of Fame ceremony's in September, so they can make it a whole weekend, kind of like how the NFL does with the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Yep.
Sure.
Well, don't they kind of do it in Williamsburg? Don't they have a...
Williamsport. Williamsport they do. It's coming up. It's going to be Cleveland and the Angels. So Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout are going to Bowman Field.
Cool.
Yep.
So my next one, will Sean Carey be the stadium announcer in Williamsport this year?
I don't know how they're doing that, because I saw Rob Thomas last night, and Rob does it sometimes too. They're really, I mean, they will need a stadium announcer, and they'll need that in rotation. but they're only going to be parents there.
Correct. Yeah, the Little League announced today that they're revoking the general admission tickets for 3,000 people.
No way.
Yeah.
Yep.
They're pulling back on that because of the rise in COVID.
Stupid. Oh, that's stuck on stupid. So you can put 36,000 people in Fenway Park, but you can't do it at the Little League World Series.
Well, they're only doing it They're only doing it here because you have a lot of kids that are 12 and under, ineligible to be vaccinated, so they're just taking extra precautions there. And they've always done that throughout since this whole thing started.
So that explains, because I've been watching some of the games, that's why there's no fans in the stadiums.
Correct.
At the semifinals instead of qualifying games.
Yep.
Heartbreak. Because you're a kid, you never get this time back. So, I don't know. Whatever. Tough time for people.
Steve, you got one?
What do you guys think of Jalen Hurts?
I think he's an okay NFL quarterback. He brings some spark to Philadelphia, but he is limited as to how far he can take them.
I thought he got a good start last night.
How did he do last night?
I thought he had a good start last night.
Yeah, I saw, just bits and pieces of it because we couldn't get the NFL Network. But I think that this might blow your guys' mind. I think he is the best quarterback to come out of Alabama since Joe Namath. I think his ability, he's a different type of kid. I mean, this is a kid who took a team to the national championship. I believe he won the national championship, and then was the backup quarterback the next year. And stood there and took it like a man. And then went to Oklahoma and took that team to the Final Four. And some players just know how to win and know how to conduct themselves, and he does. And I think he's a special player, and give him time. If he doesn't get hurt, he can do something in the NFL.
His problem is going to be accuracy. So that's always going to be his problem. He's got to be more accurate throwing the ball.
Right. So, no, I don't know enough about that stuff. But character-wise, this kid's got it all. So.
And July 1st, the federal government is going to nickname it Chris Davis Day. He is going to get $42 million in deferred payments for 15 years. He will get his full $23 million salary next year. He will get annual salaries of $9.16 million in 23, 24, 25. From 26 to 32, he'll get $3.5 million. And from 33 to 37, $1.4 million, which at that point he'll be 51. Chris Davis, American financial hero.
State worker in the state of Connecticut. That's what they got.
Chris Davis, American working hero.
How do you retire? You quit.